Well, hello, friends. Welcome to another edition of Afterburner. It is Ryan Pinder alongside our boy, Mike Gould.
I don't think that's how you say it.
That's exactly how I said it.
That's how you say it.
Yeah, Mike Gould.
Rhymes with cooled. Rhymes with cool.
Mike Cool is here in studio. Cool like the Flames offense. Oh, dear. A 4-1 setback in St. Louis tonight. Welcome to the show. A reminder, our program is brought to you by Bet365. It is the world's largest sports book. I love it. Sports betting platform, sure. Open an account today with Bet365 and make sure you use that promo code NATION. You can bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the moment, never ordinary, at Bet365. I bet you thought the Flames would be better tonight than they were on Tuesday.
I mean, yes, but it's tough when you're playing against a team in St. Louis that you match up horribly against and have for years. I mean, what if I think they've won 2 of their last 12 games against the Blues or something to that effect. And it's just for whatever reason, even before that stretch, they've never been a team that the Flames have matched up against particularly well. And just tonight, I thought it'd be better with Wolf in net, and it ended up being a little bit worse. And it was one of his uncharacteristic off nights to a certain degree. Yeah. Although to a certain degree, because there were plays that the Blues made quite well and could have been easy goals, and Wolf made some nice saves, but then he lets in a stinker and it kind of falls apart.
The Calgary Flames were very good for a while tonight. The problem is they were down 3-0 rather early, and the shots at one juncture were 11-3. It took the Flames almost 14 minutes to get to their 4th shot on net in this game. The Blues pounced on them early. It was a dopey, sleepwalking, hit the snooze button, late for work, not ready on time, use whatever expression you want, start to the contest. And it cost them, because in the second period, they got back to what makes them a successful hockey club. They worked hard. They got engaged physically. They started creating chances. But when you're down 3, Mike, this is a math question. I'm going to put you on the spot. How many goals would you need to score to win?
The exact number that the Flames have almost never scored this season.
Which is 4, if I'm correct.
I believe so.
Yeah. And so it's lovely that they did sort of rally after an ugly start to this contest, but it kind of also doesn't matter if you're asking them to score 4 against a non-Chicago team. It's been first game of the year, second game of the year, third game of the year, they got 4 or more. Empty netter in one of them. Then they had 4 on Nashville when they were in last place, and they've scored 4 or more on Chicago twice. That's the end of list. Ugh. So competent clubs of late, it just doesn't happen. It's only been Chicago and last place Nashville at the time. But it was a really ugly start. Let's walk through some of the goals for you as 1-0 early, and this is not the start that the Hanley-Weegar pair wanted. I do very much less Q. That's a mistake from the pair that sets up a prime scoring chance. And yeah, could Wolf have got it? Sure, but it's the exact type of chance you want to allow 0 of in a hockey game. Turnover leads to chance in tight.
Yeah, it's just ugly all around. I mean, and we'll talk a little bit more about the 4th line later on. Also a very poor night for that trio.
A few of those lately.
Yeah, I would say so. And it's tough because you watched the game 2 nights ago and you're like, okay, well, Dan Vladar has a good game, but at the same time, he allows an early goal and they kind of never recover. Well, tonight it's Wolf allowing 3. And it's sort of the opposite of what you expect. And from a goaltender who has been, head and shoulders the better of the two, been pretty much every statistical figure. And you kind of have to, you got to give credit where it's due. You also got to kind of take it away at certain points, because at this point, this is the sort of game where if it's a Dan Vladar night, you're sort of saying, well, Vladar did not put them in a position to win. And for Wolf, as uncharacteristic as it was, because we'll get to that 3rd goal later, which was just a real stinker.
Well, the second, yeah.
Yeah, well, we won't get ahead of ourselves, but it was just, or the second goal, that's right. It just didn't really go his way early on.
Yeah, and that's probably a good time to do it. I mean, I'll take Wolf off the hook for the first one. That's on the Weegar Hanley back behind the net. Whoops, we turn it over. Boom, wide open in the slot, top of the net. See ya. The next one's on Wolf. There's no excuse making. It's a clear shot lane. It's Parayko ripping one, but it's from wants back. That is incredibly un-Dustin Wolf to see that going.
Yeah, the thing that Wolf has always done so good at it, it's always been the mantra for him. If he sees it, he'll stop it.
Right.
And this one, it's kind of, It's one that's going toward his chest that he ends up letting 5-hole. I mean, those are the worst goals to give up. That's a Mike Smith special. That's sort of an 11 p.m. beer league. You're already down 6-1, and that one goes in.
Jeez, Mike taking some shots on the broadcast. It's not even me.
Well,
wow.
that's the thing is I love Dustin Wolf, and he's an amazing goaltender. And in my opinion, he should be one of the Calder Trophy front runners. Yeah. And in my opinion, he should be getting friggin' Vezina Trophy votes with the way that he's been playing. I mean, entering this game, he was 1 point ahead of Connor Hellebuck for the best 5-on-5 save percentage in the league.
Yeah.
And so when you're playing that well, you got to be held to a certain standard. It's sort of the same thing where, Connor Bedard is held to a certain standard because he was the first overall pick. Wolf was obviously picked 213 spots later, but when he's been at this high level all season long and he has an uncharacteristic off night, you got to point it out. It's just fair.
We'll get back to the game in a moment. I do want to follow up that thought on the Calder Trophy. I think what he's doing is rarer and harder to do than what some of these other great young players are doing this year. Not all of them necessarily, but if you told me there was like a guy that got 60 points as a rookie and he's a forward, I'd be like, yeah, I mean, that happens all the time. So that's the Matvei Mishka. Oh, he's a really great offensive player. Torts has been benching him. Defense isn't great. Like, yeah, we see that. That happens. Lane Hudson's starting to flirt with some historic rare air in terms of if he could eclipse 60 points as rookie defenseman, and that deserves a serious amount of attention. And Celebrini at a very young age and is still being 18, being around a point per game and, winning the battles he's winning and the way he's playing like a man as an 18-year-old is quite impressive. But we just don't see goalies pile up. Let's say he got to 25, 30 wins as a rookie. Like, it just doesn't happen.
No. And a lot of the cases when you see a rookie goaltender who gets a chance to be a starter, it's often on a team that doesn't really allow him to get many wins. Usually when you have that incumbent starter who's traded or forced out, that's usually a harbinger of bad things. So that kind of means the goaltender's starting from a setback.
If you're a good team, you probably got a goalie already.
Exactly.
It's not a time for a rookie.
Yeah.
If you're a team that's maybe not great, maybe you will kick the tires on a rookie goalie. And I think we thought the Flames were that. They've proven to be a much better team than what we thought when we saw them on paper in the summer. But how would you handicap those 4 players? I don't think we need to expand the field.
No, certainly
those
not.
are the 4 guys. One of them will win it for sure. And I think the sports books I checked a week ago, it was like Celebrini versus the field was the debate. But, actually that was probably a couple of weeks ago because now Lane Hudson's starting to get some love.
Yeah, Hudson's been really good. And I think I might have written him off a little bit earlier on as being sort of an empty calorie type player. But some of the stuff that I've seen from him lately has been really impressive. He's looking, like a potential top pair guy, which is, in its own regard. I mean, you talk about goaltenders being rare at that age. A defenseman doing what he's doing is pretty uncommon too. But Kent and I had a really good chat about this a couple of shows ago. And I sort of still stand by what I said. I think Celebrini is the clear cut number 1. I think he's just sort of a cut above, doing what he's doing on a bad team. Making a supporting cast that everybody thought was really weak look a lot better, I think, because of himself. I mean, that's something that people talk about with Connor Bedard and that he has a bad supporting cast. And it's true. And the supporting cast in Chicago, I would say, is a cut below what they have in San Jose. But even then, you don't really hear those excuses about Celebrini. And I think part of it is because he is just so good at this young age that he makes a lot of them, that he brings a lot of them up.
And I think stylistically, they're quite different.
Yeah.
You also, when you're talking about Eklund and Granlund and Toffoli, like that's a better top 3 than Connor Bedard has to work with. And I think Connor's your high IQ guy, not your like, I'll win the 50-50 pucks like Celebrini has become.
He's a tank. That's the thing with Celebrini. He's so good.
Yeah, and the old man's the strength and conditioning coach for the Golden State Warriors forever. Like, are we surprised? I guess we are, but we shouldn't be.
Yeah. No, he's amazing. I mean, I'm such a huge Max Celebrini fan. I'm maybe a little bit more so than more people.
So you've got Wolf.
I got Wolf at 2, and I think it's a close 2. I don't think Celebrini's lapping the field. I think Celebrini, for me, is just a little bit better, and he's a player who is going to lead that Sharks team to, I think, another era of pretty impressive play near the top of the Pacific.
We'll see how many games Wolf gets. We'll see what they do with Vladar, if he stays or goes, and how that workload is split. I think tonight was game number 10 of the last 14.
It's been a lot. It's been heavy 32.
10 of 14 for Wolf. So it's been a lot towards him. He had won 6 of his last 7. He doesn't tonight. Vladar's lost 5 in a row, if I'm correct. So it's skewed a bit. What we'll watch with Lane Hudson is the point totals. If he gets near 60, that's going to be a massive thing for him. And Celebrini has got to stay healthy. He's missed some time already with an injury. If that happens again, that's probably the most realistic thing to topple him as the Calder favorite.
Agreed. Who do you?
Mishkov's a really good number 4.
Talking Wolf. With this gonna be quick. Who would you start in 2 days? Against Winnipeg.
I think they'll go back to Vladar,
I think so too.
I also, there's a lot of times where I thought they would have gone to Vladar, that they've gone to Wolf in the last 2 weeks. So I will give them credit. Wolf was on a 940 heater over the last, I want to say 6 or so before this.
Yeah.
And they realized it and just kept playing them.
Which is the right call.
The Nashville or Utah game, one of the two, I think it was Nashville. He allowed 3, and that was like, whoa. His last 6 games, Wolf coming into tonight, 2 goals, 1 goal, 2 goals, 3 goals, 1 goal, 1 goal, 4 goal. Like, one of those is a loss, and 5 of 7, it's 2 or less. Like, ride your hot hand, 100%.
He's unquestionably the hot
hand.
But
it's tough to call him a hot hand after tonight.
I know. I mean, I criticized him earlier in the show, and a lot of people don't do that. And he's earned that. I mean, he's earned sort of the respect that comes with being this.
He would want that second one back.
He would, unquestionably. But he's earned the respect of being sort of the best rookie this Flames team has had in 10 years. I mean, he's for me, I mean, he's a cut above what Tkachuk was doing as a rookie. He's a cut above pretty much everybody else. I mean, that's the thing with Tkachuk. He wasn't that dynamo right away. It took him a couple of years,
you could see it coming, but
you could see it coming, but
point totals weren't there.
It was a 47-point guy in his first year, right? So.
Lots of comments coming in. A reminder, we do have the super chats going. Are you familiar with super chat, Mike? Do you know what a super chat is?
You know, Ryan, I'd really love it if you told me a little bit more.
Well, here's the thing. You can just write comments. They'll be there. We may or may not select some for some thoughts later on in the program. But if you want to make sure it does get read, just throw a little dollar amount attached to it, and we'll make sure it gets on the show. Proceeds from our super chat do not go to Mike's Rolex collection fund nor my beer fund. They actually head to the Youth Center of Calgary, which is a much better cause than either of the prior options.
Vastly.
It's a place where kids are welcome and accepted as they are, a place where they can hang out after school, get away from maybe some of that stress that might be in their normal life. And hey, maybe warm meal, some activities, card games, sports, music, learn an instrument, whatever it is. Some awesome time, safe space between school and family members getting home from work. So we're proud to support that. So if you've got those, Jacko, give me a wave, throw an empty can at me. You guys were busy this morning, I saw, and make sure those are read.
Jack's been busy all day.
Let's get to the
we'll leave it at that.
Let's get to the Flames scoring today. A lot of people scoring today on the Blues. Not so much in the Flames. They have won. Jack, let's take a peek at it. It is nice to see this particular Flames. He had 11 shot attempts a few games ago. That blew me away. I'm like, okay, he's coming. He's coming.
Yeah, I mean, he's looked so much better the last couple of weeks, even when the goals and the points weren't coming. And I mean, he just kind of fires it from everywhere, and it really works for him a lot more than it does most guys, because he just has that ability to find those seams in coverage, find those soft areas. That's the one thing that with Yegor the last 2 weeks before the last couple 2 weeks, if that makes any sense. That's the one thing that he wasn't doing very well is he was so passive. He wasn't really even getting open. He was reminding me a little bit of when Jimbo Neal was skating up and down the ice.
We're calling him now. All right, Jimbo.
Just
real loose tonight, boys.
Just kind of getting open from a pass that was coming from the next rink over, like he wasn't really threatening. That's the thing. Like that's what made Neal so bad, is he was never threatening to score. Even when the puck was nowhere near him, he wouldn't get open. He was like getting away from the puck. And that was sort of what it looked like with Yegor the last, month or so, is that he was kind of turning away. He was getting lost in coverage. He wasn't escaping coverage. And recently, the last few games, he's been doing a very good job of finding those open spots.
It has kind of gone a bit like a roller coaster. He gets injured early, comes back, doesn't look himself. Then he had a run where like, okay, there he is.
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, hang on, he's regressed. What's going on here? Where I thought he was healthy now. What's going on? And, they're always dealing with stuff. We never get the full story, especially if a guy's going to play through something. But I went to the Utah and Nashville games January 2nd and 4th, and I just thought, man, like that is a guy that's not operating at full speed. He's not confident. He looks slow.
Yeah. He's
yielding the puck rather than shooting it. And I think since then, he's actually been pretty good.
Yeah, his release is way better. I mean, that was the thing that made him so impressive last year. He had such a fluid release. Like, I take his release when Yegor's at his best, I take Yegor's release over anybody on the Flames.
Yeah, it'd be him and Coronado, the guys that can score.
I like his release better than Matty's, and I like Matty a
is.
lot, but Yegor's release is just so smooth. It's the smoothest I've seen. Reminds me of when like Lindholm first came over from Carolina, and he was
very easy when he arrived here.
He was so silky.
Playing right wing with Monahan and Gaudreau.
God, he was just in plum spot. But like that's the thing. And Yegor didn't have those line mates. He was sort of playing all over the lineup last year, and he scored 31. And I don't think it's fair to maybe expect him to do that every year, even though he's maybe paid like he is expected to do that every year. But I think, Yegor, with the way that injuries can affect a player's confidence and their mobility and their ability. I would be happy if he got to 20. I hope he does.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see, especially 31 last year. And this is the first year, not even of the contract.
Yeah, next year's the first
next year it is. It comes in at what, 5.8?
5 and 3/4.
5, okay. 5,
and that's the thing. He got the identical James Neal deal, which they maybe shouldn't have done.
Jimbo Neal.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
Yeah.
Big Jimbo. But like that's the thing, right? Is the difference between Yegor and Neal is we have seen Yegor play at a high level in Calgary.
Right.
And you can say he was on a juiced shooting percentage or whatever, but you can watch Yegor last year and you can watch Yegor this year, and it's clearly a different story. I mean, he was fun to watch last year. He had, good mojo. He was actually competent playing down the middle, and it's not like he's incompetent now, but he kind of looks like he's floating a little bit, like he's not necessarily right in his sweet spot, where last year it felt like a little bit more seamless, right?
Yeah.
So I like the player a lot. I think he's going to be fine. I think he'll bounce back. He's shooting too much. He's getting good shots, not to sort of hum again at a decent clip.
I think it's coming. It's 2 in the last 3. He's 3 points in his last 3. He's +5 over those 3. Like that's a nice, very small sample, but it's a step in the right direction to be sure.
Yeah.
You asked me the goaltending question. I'll ask it back.
Sure.
Who do you start in Winnipeg on Saturday? And again, to preface it all, they needed what? They got 2 goals in 2 games in St. Louis. Like we're talking about goaltending where we probably aren't. If they can get to 3 or 4 goals, this is a close contest and you win the other night.
Yeah, if it's a 4-3 game, nobody gives a shit. Like even with the bad goal that Wolf gave up, it's 4-1. It's tough, right? Like especially when you get in that hole so early. But if it's back if it's back and forth, I don't know if anybody is necessarily as right in there.
So who do you start?
I think I start Vladar.
Yeah.
But and that's as somebody who was very much intent on the Flames starting Wolf 3 of the 4 games on this trip. But you know what? You got to be fair, and Vladar had the better last game.
Yep, agreed. And I still think it's like you watch Vladar and is that a good goal or not? I don't know. So huge. Why are there so many holes? But the Wolves' performance tonight was great after they got down 3-0, and that's kind of too late.
Yeah.
With this group especially. If it's the Oilers, it's probably fine. In fact, if it's the Oilers, you go hammer that money line if they're down 3-0. Oh, first period. Oh,
that's the expectation with Stu Skinner in that.
Get that happiness hedge working. They either lose and you're thrilled, or you make money.
That's right. We gotta make fun of the Oilers a little louder. We gotta.
Let's make sure that final comes in first, shall we?
We got a spectator in the crowd tonight. We're not going to mention him.
He's holding up fingers. That can't be cups with McDavid because they're still okay.
I don't think he'd have any fingers. I think they'd be shot off at this point.
There you go. Okay. Big news today. Let's take a look at the Flames schedule. It's the road ahead, and the road ahead has a new sponsor.
It does.
Mike Gould, tell us about it.
All right. Well, I will tell us about it. So for those of you who don't know, I have a day job and I work at a place called Platinum Mitsubishi, and I want you all to come visit me up at Platinum Mitsubishi because they are the sponsor of the road ahead, and it's
amazing.
It makes a lot of sense. You got a road, and we drive cars on roads, and at Platinum Mitsubishi, they sell cars that go on roads and they drive on the road, and you can drive the road ahead all the way to Winnipeg if you want. And one of the Outlander PHEVs, they're pretty good cars. And in fact, I got one right here.
Okay.
Little miniature. I don't think we got Zoom. I don't think we got Zoom.
I don't think we need Zoom.
I don't think we got Zoom. But go to 2720. Here, Jack's going to get on it.
You're a grown man with a child's toy. We do not need Zoom for that.
My finance manager doesn't know that I stole this out of his office.
Yeah.
But it's if you come up to 2720 Barlow Trail Northeast, just up by Sunridge Mall, we'll get you into one of those Outlander PHEVs and take you out for a test drive.
It's a gratuitous plug. We love it. Welcome on board Platinum Mitsubishi. The road ahead sees them indeed go and close this road trip in Winnipeg. It is then a 1-game homestand, but they got a breather before they play that game. They'll be home. I'm looking at it. It's an earlier start on Saturday.
Jesus.
they'll be home at a reasonable, like late Saturday, early Sunday. They don't play till Thursday.
What is going on with that schedule?
And then it's like, oh, we're going to put you on the road right back where you were. The flyover states in Manitoba. They'll play Minnesota and Winnipeg twice in 2 days. So rather than, spreading out those 3 games, they'll have one game from Sunday to Saturday and then back-to-back games. Saturday and Sunday.
All the Mitsubishis come with a standard 10-year, 160,000 kilometer powertrain warranty. And
Is that right, Mike?
I think the entire duration of that warranty will be expired by the time that the Flames are back in action on January 23rd against the Buffalo Sabres.
But a lot of road hockey in here. And they had the LA game canceled as well.
That's right.
Recall. And it was a stretch. It was going to be 7 of 8 on the road. It's 6 of 7 on the road. Road has not been kind to them. They did start the road trip with a victory in, I guess not the road trip, but they got a win in Anaheim. They didn't get to play that LA road game. They come home. It's St. Louis been tough. Chicago they beat. They looked much better than they should. And it's like, yep, that's a team flirt on the bubble against a bad team. That's what it's going to look like. But St. Louis, over the course of these 2 games, one of it, albeit the 3rd and 4th nights of the Flames, they looked like watch these 2 games and pick one of these teams because only one's going to make the playoffs. You'd pick St. Louis.
I mean, and Pike had the comment, I think, in the chat earlier in the show. I think he's stalking us in the old comment section. But he said something that I agree with, which is sorry if it's a misquote, but he said, I'm excited to not watch the Blues for the rest of the season.
Yeah, you're done with the Blues.
Because it is just a terrible, terrible matchup.
And they got a loser point out of the whole series. They lost 4-3 in extra time.
Yeah, on the goal that shouldn't have counted back at the Saddledome. And that's it for St. Louis. Thank God. The Flames just match up horribly for whatever reason against the Blues. So hopefully they can get on track against the Jets and then just sort of move forward from there, because it's just been kind of a bad matchup.
That is the road ahead for Platinum Mitsubishi. We thank them and you, Mike. And if people want to go pester your work, we'd encourage them to do that. What's the address again?
That's 2720 Barlow Trail Northeast. Yeah, it's a good store.
Well done, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Well done. Very good.
Outlander PHEV.
What he said.
Yeah,
get 2. Right. Awesome. One for you, one for the wife, or whoever. That's great.
Yeah, one for you, Jack. One for one for the back seat. Got 3 rows of seats. It's excellent. You can get in the back row there, Jack, and
really losing control on this thing over here.
Get one of the headrests.
Rhett's at the tone this morning, cracking a beer at 9 something. So maybe I shouldn't be surprised.
I had to carry it on.
Yeah.
4-1 is your final. Blues beat the Flames. Craig Conroy was on the broadcast at the first intermission with Ryan Leslie. I know you were doing something in a BMW to someone. I don't know. Well, if you were busy, if you didn't see that, we'll play it back and you can.
Wow.
He sold a car. I'm kidding, everyone. He sold a car. Let's have a listen to what the general manager of the Flames had to say. Numerous topics we can dive into here.
And what you need to add. What is it in time as you continue to look at your group that you want to do going forward?
You're always, right from the beginning of the year, we're always trying to get better. We're always trying to add something that makes sense long term. So it's a little more difficult than just adding some for the short term. Right shot center, it's not something I've talked about it since the draft last year. Still a priority. Just haven't been able to find one.
And I got to ask you, because you're starting to see it in various reports about Rasmus Anderson. I know, and everybody knows, he has another year. This is also a player who's been here his entire career. Maybe a thought on the player and where you sit in terms of your discussions.
Well, you know what? Rasmus is a huge part of the team. And the one thing we've talked numerous times, him and I, he wants to be a Flame. He wants to be competitive. And, he's still got the year. And we can't do anything until July 1st. But I see Rasmus as a Flame. I do.
So there it is. He repeats the notion that they're looking for young right shot centers. He alludes to the fact that they're not really interested in rentals, but that they're always looking for long-term pieces that fit the sort of age window of this team. The last one's the most interesting because I think Rasmus Anderson's a good player. I think Rasmus Anderson could really help a team do some impressive things like win a Stanley Cup in the next little while. The challenge being, are the Flames going to be a cup contender before we start to see Rasmus Anderson decline in his play? And that's not to say, boo, Rasmus, he's going to get bad. It's a reminder that Father Time's undefeated and that Rasmus Anderson will turn 30 in the first month of a new contract that I'm sure he and his agent would like to be 8 years long. So you would buy the 30-year-old, 31-year-old, 32. I can do this all the way to 37. You know what I'm getting at here. That's what you're buying here. Are those the best years of Rasmus Anderson? Do we expect him to age well? And does that fit the Flames window to be a contender with these young and up-and-coming players that they've drafted, like the Grittins, the Perricks, the Bashes, Honzik, Brestevich, Muse, on and on?
And it's even tougher when you have a player in Rasmus who's not the most fleet of foot. And you never know how those guys are going to age. I mean, are you going to see a guy who's like a Mark Giordano who is a better skater than Rasmus is? Or are you going to see like a Mark Edward Vlasic type thing? I mean, you signed Vlasic to that contract that he should have been on when he was in his 20s and he was one of the best shutdown guys in the league. And are you going to give Rasmus that deal? And Vlasic's getting, what, 7? I don't think Rasmus is getting 7. I think he's getting more than that. And
I think what we're hearing, and this is all sort of speculation. The cap is raising 5% because it has to, and that's how they signed the CBA. That cap finishes at the end of next season, which is when Rasmus's contract ends. There's thought that the cap could be $110 million. Mm-hmm. So you start looking at what's a $7 million player today or a year or two ago where the cap was, assign that same percentage to $110 million. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Rasmus and his camp are saying, we believe we're a $9 million defenseman, especially when you can point to Seth Jones, Darnell Nurse, other players that he's better than that maybe erroneously have been given 9+, but have been given 9+.
Do you need, is the other question, do you need both Rasmus Anderson and Mackenzie Weegar? Especially when you already have Weegar locked in at 6.25, which is a very favorable number. And you are one of the rare teams in the league that is stocked up on right-handed
so many
defensemen.
righties. And just to elaborate on that,
go for it.
Pahal just got an extension for 2 years. He's a third pair righty. They like him, but he's a righty. Rasmus and Weegar are both righties. Weegar's played the left a ton here, but just moved back to the right to play with Hanley. Perrick, righty. Brestevich, righty. Muse, righty. Like, all the guys that have the best probability of becoming NHLers in their system are righties. And so you can play Weegar on the left, and he's been great on the left at multiple junctures in his career, but you do start to wonder if we've already locked one guy into his mid-30s who's a right shot defenseman that plays top 4 minutes. Is Anderson the best place to assign that money? And I kind of can see it cutting both ways. If you want to remain competitive as you incorporate more youth, Rasmus is crucial. But it also kind of stops you from bottoming out. This team without Rasmus Anderson, I think, would be picking in the top 5 next year because they don't have NHL defensemen. Like, Ball was a third pair guy last year at best. All these other guys are waiver claims and 6-7s on contending teams. It would hurt and help if you're on Team Tank. You love the idea of trading Rasmus. So I think it's a very nuanced thing that it's more complicated than just saying, well, Rasmus wants to be here and the team loves him and everyone's feelings were hurt because all these guys didn't want to stay last year. It's like, well, hang on. Just because he wants to stay and you can get a deal done and you have tons of cap space, does that mean it's going to be money well spent until he's 37?
Yeah, it reminds me of when Brendan Gallagher re-signed with the Habs. Different player, different situation, but it was sort of like one of those things where, well, the player wants to stay. He's committed. He's got that loyalty. He's, and the Habs want to do right by this type of player who's been a part of a long playoff run. And, well, but why? Like, what are you going to get out of it? Is the purpose of signing Rasmus Anderson to be respectable? Yeah. Or are you going to be getting something out of it? Because the way that I see it, if you're signing this guy until he's 34, or you're signing him until he's 38 and you have him playing at a top pair or top 4 level until he's 34, 35, by the time the team's willing to compete or ready to compete, are you looking at a player who out his contract will be more of a hindrance? Like
that's the question. And I don't have the answer, but I have concerns about it. And like it's just
because with the Habs right now, those
he's a
guys,
good player. Here's the other thing, just real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
If you have $20 million cap space, how much of a bonus is it that Rasmus makes, let's say, 60% of his market value?
It's a huge bonus.
It's none. There's no bonus. Well, you're not spending the money anyway.
No, you're right. You're right.
So his value to the Flames is that he's a very good player. His value to a contending team is that he's a very good player, but he's also making almost like he's making 60% of what he's worth. So you can add him and you're tight against the cap, but you can fit him in. Yeah. Oh my gosh, you can fit this guy in. They don't get any of that value here.
It's a huge bonus for the Flames in that he is a valuable piece.
Right.
That's what I mean.
The value as a player is the same everywhere in this league. He's a good player. But being at a really, really low cap hit only helps Murray Edwards at this point.
And you're looking
if you're not trading him, you don't get to see any of that value because they're not a cap team. They have $20 million in cap space.
Look at the Dallas Stars. And the Dallas Stars are a team that could sorely use a right-handed defenseman. They don't really have anybody in their system. And look at the two guys who they just went out and paid to add on the free agent market this summer, who are guys who the Flames actually have the advantage of. They could probably take on one of these guys who Dallas doesn't probably want or need at this point. Dumba and Ilya Lyubushkin.
Yeah.
Both making north of $3 a year on multi-year deals. And it's just like, okay, this is sort of the situation the Flames are looking at where they have this embarrassment of riches. And the other thing goes back to Yegor, where, okay, you have kind of the split on the year of Yegor playing with Miromanov and Yegor playing with Hanley. And you see the numbers with Hanley are so good. And the numbers with the Miromanov were not very good at all. And is the partner the reason those numbers with Hanley are so much better? Or is it the fact that Uyghur's finally back to playing on the right side?
I don't know. He played pretty damn well on the left all year last year, career year.
That's the thing, though.
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't have the answer. And I don't want this to get misconstrued.
Who is he playing with?
Well, he's almost the season with Rasmus, if I'm correct, because they had Hanifin and Tanev together.
Yeah.
So post deadline, they obviously got lesser. I think he was playing with Shillington a bunch. Anderson was, which meant what?
Uyghur was playing with Miromanov after the deadline.
That's right. Yeah, and so
which seemed to work, but
look, it's been fine. But I don't know that the left right thing's as big for Uyghur as it would be for most guys. But I'll get back to the Rasmus thing.
Yeah,
love the player, like the way he goes about his business, and I think he actually cares about the city, and you love to see that. I just wish that his age and his prime timed up with what I think their window to be competitive will be, because you can absolutely bring him in. He just might be really good when you kind of would be more strategically better to be worse off and picking higher. And then he might be tailing off when you're like, oh, we got all these right shot D-men here that are now better than Rasmus and he's 35. Shoot.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
I do.
That's the conundrum I see, because I like the player, and I think I think he means it. He's a pretty straight shooter when he's like, yeah, like if I'd like to be here. I think the team has to be competitive, but through 44 games, they have been. And I think he will sign here. And I just wonder if that's more of the feel-good story than it's actually a really savvy tactical approach to try to win a cup.
Now, the other side of it is if push comes to shove and Rasmus does extend, and then in 2-3 years, you see, okay, Zane Parek's a star. And Hunter Brustevitz is looking like a NHL regular second, third pairing guy. And Henry Muse is coming off a dominant season in the NCAA, and we think we can slot him in.
So
it's going to happen.
I see what you did there.
It's going to happen. But with if all that happens and you have Rasmus Anderson in year 3 of an 8-year deal, and he is 32, and he is signed through 2020 or 2030, whatever, at 8.5, 8.75, 9. Is that a deal that you can move?
I don't know. And I will say this, if to play devil's advocate, you could probably keep Anderson and move Uyghur if need be, because he's suddenly a value deal. But they just feel too similar for me to feel like this should be top priority.
And the problem on my end is I think Uyghur's the better player. I think Uyghur's the more versatile player.
He's also older.
He's older, but he has less term left. And he's cheaper. He's going to be cheaper.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's the way that I see it. But it's not like an indictment on Ras. I think he's a great player. And I think both of them have the ability to be like the captain of this team after Backlund is done.
Yeah.
But
I agree. I love the character on both.
It's a good problem to have in a certain respect, but you're almost running the risk of making it into a bad problem if you make the wrong move and then you double down on it. It's tough. It's tough.
And again, cap hit and term, we're guessing. These are all.
Yeah, who knows? But.
And you got a lot of time to figure it out. If you start to see some significant, like, ooh, got all this data with these chips in the jerseys. Why is Rasmus slowing down? Well, maybe there is a little more. Or it's like, shoot, that was just a bad month. He's back, baby.
The other thing is he kind of already has started from a sense where he started really hot. And look at Rasmus's production the last 2 months of the year. Yeah. He's been like, you look at
all those goals are first 2 months.
He's been kind of sitting at 18 points for a while.
Okay.
And it's something that I think a lot of people are kind of forgetting about because he had such a hot start.
Right.
But yeah, Rasmus hasn't really been doing a whole lot on the offensive side lately.
We got a super chat. Let's get to that because it is on topic, I believe. This is Arthas. Much love to Mike and Pinder. I have a bone ton. I don't know.
With Jack had a bone ton
to pick with this team's effort. Nothing. Sorry, this is worded very difficultly. The lack of shot blocking and minimal forechecking really made me hard to enjoy. Does this team lack some heart that early? No, I think they had all that in the second and at times in the third. They missed it, and it was 3-0, and then they had it back, but it was too late. This team is not going to be able to score their way out of 3-0 holes more than, let's say, once this year, and I think it was game 1, right? Like when you talk about being down 3 and winning, that's not how they're wired. They need to show up and work most of the 60 minutes to have success. It's structure and work ethic. Those were missing in the first period.
I think heart and forechecking are something.
$20, by the way, from Arthur.
That's pretty damn good. Those are a lot of dollars right there. But I think heart and forecheck are something that I don't define necessarily as a team thing. I define as a player by player thing.
Yeah, how invested are you? Tonight they weren't in the first.
Yeah, but I look at guys like Pelche who have been all heart lately, and Kerins has been so refreshing on that line. Even Sharangovich, I noted in the third period, this guy's forechecking again. He's getting in there and making some efforts. I mean, I think you can maybe look at the top line and say, okay, maybe they're going down, but I think it kind of ebbs and flows with each line and each player from game to game.
So let's get to the fourth line then, because you talked about it. And Kevin Rooney got his ass sat down tonight. I'll give you the final totals.
I know 0 shifts in the third period for Kevin Rooney.
And I think that means he finished at 452-ish because, well, there it is. 531.
452 at 5-on-5, I think.
8 shifts all night. That the only player in single digits on the Flames. And it's not been a good stretch for Kevin Rooney, who has been a reliable piece of an effective fourth line at times. That just hasn't been the last month for this team.
No, Rooney's last month has been, there's really no sugarcoating. It's been terrible. I mean, you
had some stats on it that were pretty damning. The last time he was on for a 5-on-5 goal 4.
The last time he was on the ice for any goal 4 in a Flames game was on, I think, December the 10th.
Okay, so you're talking over a month ago.
Yeah, and since then, he has been on the ice for no goals against in a game at any situation just 3 times. So
all but 3 games, he's been on the ice for goals against.
Yeah, and tonight it was 2. He was not on the ice for a goal against the last Blues game, not tonight, but the previous one. Before that, you're going, 1 goal against, 2 goals against, 1 goal against. And I get it. It might be unfair. He plays on the PK. But at a certain point, the point of being on the PK is to K the Ps, right? Like, you got to.
It's a lot of acronyms, but I think we all understand it. Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of the point, right? You're on the penalty kill. You got to kill those penalties. And that hasn't been happening either, right? So like I was saying, you go back December 12th. I don't know the exact number. I think it's like 12 or 13 games in that span. And you're looking, he's only been on the ice for 0 goals 3 times in that span. That's terrible.
As a fourth liner.
As a fourth liner who doesn't play very much. I mean, the goals against have been coming at an alarming rate. And it's just kind of like, okay, you don't want to single out one player on that line because I think everybody on the line is kind of to blame a little bit. Yeah. But at the same time, this is a guy who's been in the A recently, who's, worked his way back into a spot last year, and I think is maybe on the verge of losing it again.
So let's look at what they did in the third. Rory Kerins went down and played center on that line. He's a center in the American League. He's having an incredible year. He's got 21 goals at the time of his call, leading the American League in goals.
Looks like an NHL
as
player.
A center, and I liked him tonight. I thought he was good on the power play. I like they're using him on the power play. You can see the high-end skill, the vision. I don't know that he wins a ton of foot races, but it's the IQ that's seen him score at every single level that continues to show up, which is impressive. I would suggest that you could build around a fourth line around Kerins and some other guys. And maybe if Kevin Rooney could move out, they're leaving Yegor at center, even after calling up Kerins, because Menkel could go slide in and play with Sharangovich and Pelche.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. And I mean, you're hoping you're going to get Connor Zary back at some point this season. So, hopefully Yegor switches back to the wing at some point, because I think he's better there. But again, he's looked good the last couple games playing center. So you're like, okay, what do you do? And again, with the fourth line aligned the way it is right now, they called up Walker Duehr and, they wanted to see what they had. And I think
it's still what they had last year.
I think it is sort of reinforced the notion that Walker Duehr is sort of a 14th forward. He's a guy who you can sort of punch in and play for 5 minutes, and he's not necessarily going to kill you, but it's sort of a Dryden Hunt type scenario, maybe.
Yeah. I think we're going to see Stromgren soon, and we'll see what happens at the end of the junior schedules, because they go quite a ways if teams play in deep into the playoffs, and if they don't, you might see some guys, but Stromgren's and Kerins are the two guys I think they've been really keen to see. The center injury, Kerins gets the call. I don't know that we need to see a lot more Walker Duehr.
No.
We know what he is. In fact, I'd almost rather see an Adam Klapka again at this point.
I'd rather see Sam Morton. There's like
center, but yeah.
Well, you can play these guys when they come up. I mean,
yeah, Morton could probably play the wing,
sure. Play him wherever. Yeah. But like just to reinforce it, I got the numbers here. You go tonight, Rooney on the ice for 3 against.
Yeah, that's tough. And then in only 5.5 minutes, you got benched. Yeah. So it was probably that first period sunk him in.
Previous game 0. Before that 2, then 1, then 1, then 1, then 3, then 1, then 2, then 0, then 1, then 1, then 1, then 0, then 2. And that's since December the 12th. And then December 10th, he's on the ice for 2, 4, and 1 against.
That's a tough grind for our boy.
Yeah, it's not good. It's just not what you want to see.
Rooney, we'll see. I think the fourth line for a while there made some sense. It might be time for the overhaul.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. And again, we don't know yet have a firm timeline on Zeri, but that will change things as well. If all of a sudden you have Pelche and Kerins on a fourth line, that's an entirely different makeup.
And that's the thing is the Flames have actually had good fourth lines that have been young fourth lines. And we even saw Pelche on the fourth line at certain points. And I remember when Mangiapane was coming in, he played on the fourth line with Derek Ryan, and that was a good, fun fourth line. And there's ways to do it where you make it a fast and fun fourth line that, right now, you don't need that Daryl Sutter type fourth line. You don't need that one that grinds and bangs and crashes.
I like the physicality, but you can leave Lomberg with a Pelche and a Kerins.
Yeah, and it's only worthwhile if they're not getting scored on. And right now they're getting scored on.
Yeah, that's fair. Want to say a big shout out to Richmond's Pub. We were there for the game last week, the win over Anaheim. We've been there on 3 wing nights, and I actually was back this Monday to catch John Bender and his LA Rams on television, which is great to see. I know we got a huge slate of games we're going to get into to bet for Bet365 later on, but we're at a divisional weekend, Jacko. Pizza, wings, and all the big screens at Richmond's is going to be your move this weekend or anytime the Flames are playing, obviously. They've also got the Barnburner Blonde in cans, which we used to have earlier today. No, there's still a few left. Okay, that's good to see. But Richmond's big shout out. They're hanging on Afterburner for a while here for the remainder of the season. So we're super excited about that. We've been really excited to get there. Great people and a great place. If you're watching sports, A, tons of screens. B, they got the sound on. Add good food, good drinking, good people. There you are.
Go to Richmond's with a buddy. Here's an idea. Go to Richmond's with a buddy and ask, get 1 wing for each point scored in one of those games this weekend.
Don't do basketball. You're going to die.
No, but it's football. It's football. You could do it.
Yeah, football for sure.
One wing for each point.
You pick one team, I pick the other.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, I think that's a good idea. I'm team dill pickle, you team barbecue. You go back and forth. Maybe you swap them out a little bit. 2 double points if you get any safeties.
Okay, I'm down with that. And we'll bet overs. Let's eat a lot of wings.
Safeties count for 4 wings.
In the heart of Glamorgan, don't you know? It's the corner of Richmond Road and 37th Street Southwest, Richmond's Pub. Big shout out to them. Okay, we tackled Rooney, Anderson. Rory Kerins is interesting. Pop for me on a couple of the power plays, like what I've seen in small samples here. I guess when you're a 6th rounder and you had to go to the coast, you're probably earning everything along the way. And he's got here entirely based on merit, leading the league in scoring. That's the best in North America outside the NHL. I think we're going to be seeing him for a while.
I'm going to put on my Ryan Pike pedant hat and say it's not the coast anymore, Pinder. It's just the ECHL. But
correct. It's also not much on the.
The Rapid City Rush actually have cool jerseys. I should have asked Jack to pull this. They're doing like a pedestal, a Calgary Flames pedestal inspired Rapid City Rush jersey. You should go look it up. That's Rory Kerins' old team. And 2 years ago, I mean, like that's the thing. He's in the ECHL, and I'm just like. This guy's coming off a year with the Sioux Greyhounds where he's over 100 points, and you're thinking he's kind of like looking like Luke Misa does now. And what would you think if in a couple of years Luke Misa goes straight to ECHL, goes to Rapid City? Because I think that's sort of what happened with Rory Kerins, and it was
lots of guys go to the ECHL. It's just that
not many fight their way out.
Yes, and so I don't know that everyone should be excited about sending kids to the ECHL so much as. Rory's had to go there because he isn't a first rounder.
Well, that's the thing.
And he's here based on all his results. He's earned it.
Well, and when he went down there, people were like, oh, that's not good. Like,
Yeah,
that's like,
it's like,
what,
shoot.
what does this mean for this player? And
You'd hope he could be an Well, you just needed to figure out the pro game.
well, and that's the thing that's crazy to me is Rory Kerins has 3 points in 3 NHL games after through 5 years of his career, he never played in a single preseason game.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. Not even
Not
one.
once.
And
That's
they
insane.
unload the barrel in preseason. Yeah, it's crazy.
They play like Mark Duart and Mark Rassel in preseason games.
Look at this.
Those ones are cool. Those aren't the ones, but they are cool.
But yeah,
Those ones kind of look like the Flames the Flames Heritage Classic jerseys, like the off-white with the circular logo. That's pretty cool though. Rapid City's got some cool people down there. They got some good jersey designers down there. I like the off-white. I like the Red Wings Stadium Series jerseys that came out today too. Those were cool.
You're all over the map. I got to keep you on leash here. So
Rory Kerins.
We're heading up to Jasper. We're searching for the next Rory Kerins out there, or maybe the next Jack Haverstock. That's what we're okay. Going to be a ton of fun. We're up there for our annual pond hockey tournament. Excited to see the familiar faces up there. And we got to say a big thank you to our pals at Booster Juice who are presenting the game pucks for the entire tournament. You want to grab that massive trophy there that we slashed and hacked and scored our way to last year? Show that off. Yeah.
Check this out.
Don't be shy.
Check this out.
Champs, we'll be defending our title. We're trying to tuck in those Booster Juice pucks into the pond hockey nets and see if we can't make it back to back. And a big shout out to Booster Juice, proud partner of the Jasper Pond Hockey Tournament. Visit a location today, refuel, refresh, re-energize. Also, you can download their new Booster Rewards app. You can order and earn berry points on there. Oh, that's right. The Booster Rewards app, berry points. Use those for delicious and nutritious smoothies, drinks, and food that will get you through the day. Big shout out to Booster Juice. Also, Yeti's coming on board for the pond hockey as well, Jack. This is nails. Now, we all know Yeti. It's the incredible coolers and water thermoses and almost everything now. I think it started out pretty simple in terms of like, we could probably just make a better cooler, but they've branched off into a ton. So, of course, when you get into the elements and the weather's a little gnarlier, it's Yeti time. Crave the cold. Extend your ice time with hard-hitting gear that's built to honor the toughest sport on earth. That is a Yeti. And I think they've got like a tent or a hangout area. That sounds unreal.
Everything that we could need on an ODR.
Yes. And I think it's like -6 to -8. We played in like -20 something a couple of years ago. Like we're primo weather. Pond hockey weather, perfect. A little Yeti tent. Yeah.
I've been eyeballing one of those. I was up at the one of those arcades, and they had one of those Yeti coolers as their top prize.
Yeah.
And I almost got enough points for it.
Come on, nerd. Get some more tickets.
Arcade. I want to fill this. This is a Yeti cup, isn't it?
That is not a Yeti, no, but that is trophy, son.
All right. Well, put some orange sickle booster juice in there.
We put some things in there last year. We'll see if we can't do it again. All right, very good. We'll move along. It was beer. There was nothing else crazy. A lot of Origin went in there, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
Big shout out to our pals at Origin.
Oranges.
Last one for you. Bet365, the world's largest and my personal favorite. I don't want to make it too biased, but sports betting platform. Sign up today. Use the promo code NATION. It's a huge range of markets. Never ordinary at Bet365. Let's take a look at the divisional weekend slate from our good friends at Bet365. Houston at Kansas City at 2:30 on Saturday. We'll see if the Chiefs are frauds, Jack. Then we get Washington at Detroit, which could be fun. Jaden Daniels has raised a lot of eyebrows as rookie, an incredible year. And Detroit's just the wagon everyone feels good for because they've been bad for, I don't know, about a half century till last year. Rams getting a little bit of sneaky hype on the Eagles. Feel like that line's dropped to 6 points from where it opened. And 1 point dogs are the Bills at home against the Baltimore Ravens.
I don't agree with that.
These feel like big spreads, no? 8.5, 9.
Well, I get it with Houston,
6,
KC. I Detroit as well. Like you got two teams that have had a bye, essentially. Not essentially, they actually have. And the other teams are playing on short rest because they played, Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah.
So regular rest for Houston, 1 day short for Washington.
9.5. That's
Rams looked very, very impressive in a game they were dogs against that Minnesota team that everyone
killed
loved
them.
so much.
Wasn't even close.
No, they destroyed it. And the defense has really come to light as one of the better crews in the league. Matt Stafford has won a Super Bowl with some of these fellas. Kind of leaning take the points.
Massive snow game, apparently. You see that?
In Buffalo?
In Philly. Like
in Philly.
coldest
Philly,
in
wow.
years.
What did you think of that divisional doink? That was a
Love
fun
to
one.
see it.
That was a fun one.
Love the doink.
Well, and we showed the clip. The kicker was absolutely loose.
Do you see that, Mike?
Doing the whole hair thing, doing that.
I'm not nervous.
Whatever
It's like a
works
feral-
for you, man. Like,
Feral
it's-
Wolverine kicking the ball. Yeah.
Oh, he was, but you know what? Hey, he just had to make it a little bit more interesting. It wasn't Cody Parkey. It was wasn't that
Parkey.
the double doink,
The
man.
double
Any Bears fans in the chat?
Dean watching?
Give us an
They
anti-super
gave us a
chat for
bunch
that one.
of. They were ripping through kickers like my kids do underwear. It was wild. I think they had like 5 1 year. It's like, you want to go die? You want your career over? Go kick for the Bears for a bit. It was bad. No one could make anything there forever.
That Washington game was
They
so
got Cairo Santos.
felt like they were trying to throw that game away, and then they ended up winning it in the last second. It was just, that was a weird game.
Do we
But hey,
like any dogs this week?
Yeah, I like the Bills if they're dogs. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I
Bills?
don't agree with that.
I'll take the points with Washington. I don't think they went straight up. I think they make it an interesting game. I'd love Houston to cover. Kansas City didn't do a lot of covering until the final month of the year. And I actually kind of like the Rams. I kind of like all the points.
I don't know. I think Houston,
They should be chopped meat.
they should be, but I don't know. KC's starters haven't played in a while. It's gonna be
Might be a good thing. I'm not sure.
We'll see. It's gonna be a fun weekend, and I'm glad I have that Sunday night off because that Buffalo Baltimore game is gonna be crazy.
What's the latest in the Edmonton Colorado game? I know we got a huge honk in the back there.
Yeah,
3-3.
I believe it was 3-3
We
last
told,
week.
we told you to jump on when it was
Uh-oh.
3 bagel. Yeah, that's right. Even in game, you can do that right now. Oilers plus 110 on the money line. Avs minus 140. And that's in a 3-3 tie. Not often you get the Oilers as dogs in a tie spot. Okay, very good.
Our arrogance and hubris got the best of us here on the Afterburner
Well, one of us
show.
for sure tonight.
All right.
Yeah, bet 365. Thanks for all you do. And yeah, never ordinary indeed at bet 365. That promo code again is Nation. Any comments or thoughts, Jack, that we need to get to? We kind of been all over the map tonight. It's another loss in St. Louis, back-to-back games with just 1 goal for the Calgary Flames, which stunningly was not enough either night. All of a sudden, St. Louis, 1 point back. Calgary does hold 2 games in hand, but if you had to pick a horse the rest of the way, it would be very tough to convince me that the Flames are better than the Blues at this point. If you wanted to tell me that it was the 3rd and 4 on Tuesday and that's who the Flames were, sure. But then I got to watch tonight.
I just think it's a different animal when it's the Blues against Calgary, because the Blues against Calgary are better than they are against any other team.
You're buying into that, eh?
It's been the trend. It's been the trend for like a decade. The Blues always play the Flames hard, and
I'd like them more under Montgomery, and
they do have a good coach.
Adding Fowler, like they're going to add. They're not going to.
Well, it's not Doug Armstrong's thing. Like he always goes for it.
So, and that's kind of where, like, if Vancouver is going to stumble, I would absolutely pick St. Louis ahead of Utah and Calgary right now.
Yeah, I don't like Utah. Their
They need
chances.
to get their D back. Marino and then
He's back. Marino's
Jersey
back. Marino's back
is
now.
close, but 2 of your top 4 hurts. But still, like,
Utah blew it against the Rangers tonight. They were
blew
up,
it.
They were up 3-2. Cooley put them up 3-2, and then Riley Smith, Chris Kreider, and
Rangers are starting to
Panarin.
pick up points.
Yeah, there you go.
Can't close it out, but they've been in games lately.
2 goals for Matias Maccelli.
Your boy.
He's good.
Jack, permission to
I got one question.
yeah, fire.
Doogie regular, always asking
Yeah,
questions.
good. Okay, love it.
Wants to know about Kirkland. Are we missing him right now?
Oh, I mean, I miss him. but
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, he's better than Walker Dewar, and he can take draws, and he's a shootout guy. They haven't been to the shootout, but he was a productive piece in albeit a smaller role. He played the role well.
He was fine. I mean, I've always been a Walker Dewar guy, or not a Walker Dewar guy, a Justin Kirkland guy. Always been a Justin Kirkland guy.
Thank you,
Walker Dewar is okay, but I've liked Justin Kirkland back to when he was sort of a relatively anonymous guy on the Stockton Heat.
Yeah.
Who they signed as an undrafted or not, an unsigned RFA from the Nashville Predators.
Drafted 10 years ago by the
It was,
Predators.
11 years ago almost now. He was a 2014 pick, and it's been sort of a slow burn, and it's a fun story. And I don't know if he's going to be anything more than what he showed, but he's fun.
These are the silver linings. Like Mantha, done for the year early. Kirkland, hurt. Now Zary gone. But it's the result of a lot of these things that has allowed Jacob Pelche to come up and look like a really good third liner in the NHL. And it's allowed you to think, oh, man, maybe Rory Kerins could be an NHLer. And so, you're not cheering for the injuries, but yeah, like you do miss those guys. Like Anthony Mantha as roller coastery as it was, you're missing his scoring and his size.
Yeah, oh sure. And I mean, this is sort of how Connor Zary got into the NHL in the first place.
Right.
There's similar stuff happening last year. And it's sort of the thing that the Flames were so lucky with injuries for the longest time in the last few years of Gaudreau, Tkachuk, all that stuff. And
minus
they were
Tanev when you
minus Tanev and Monahan and all that stuff. But it was sort of at a point where they had these guys in the American League who you wanted to give looks to, and they kind of couldn't because they were trying to compete. And so you were trying to sort of just plug and play with the vet guys like Alan Quine and Byron Treyes and there's a name. And but it's like you had guys who were trying to maybe see what they could do at age 22, 23, and you weren't in a spot where you felt comfortable giving them games. And now as the Flames right now, you're looking at their forwards in the American League and you're saying, okay, I want to see William Stromgren at some point this year. Is there anybody else who I am desperate to see? And I think the answer is no.
Not yet. Yeah. And I'd like to see some guys in the blue line, but
yeah, on
it's
the
not
back
a need
end, it's
right
different.
Now. Yeah, like I'd like to see Kuznetsov, Solovyov,
Poirier.
Maybe, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Depending who gets hurt. Yeah, absolutely. And Brestevich, we're going to see a lot of, but it's pretty early in his pro career.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're down and out for the last couple of weeks, sure. But yeah, I think to maybe put a bow on this whole thing, when you looked at this very, very old veteran club that didn't have a ton in the system, you didn't think, and it was like, felt pretty bleak about what this team would be down the road. Every time they've gone to the minors and made a bet on skill, it's looked pretty damn good. Like Pospisil, way better than you would have thought at the beginning of the season last year. Ditto Zary, who now is playing center ice in the NHL and looks like a legit impact player. You know, those are the huge developments last year. This year, it's okay. Coronado is a scorer in this league. He's absolutely a guy that could be a ceiling of a, top line scoring winger. At worst, it feels like he's a second line guy that can flirt with 30. Like I think he's already kind of that guy.
Yeah.
And it's his second full season. He was at Harvard 3 years ago. That's wild. The kids have been very good, and that's going to be something to watch. Kerins look fine.
Pelche's found money.
I still think someone should have claimed Pelche.
Well, and it's found
You're
money.
glad they didn't if you're a Flames fan, but what the hell are you doing? The guy's making $700,000. He's a first rounder. You have no confidence. Nobody wanted this guy.
It doesn't make
for
any
free.
Sense. He looks like a guy who's going to stick around. He looks like a guy who's a glue guy who, I mean, at worst, I think you're looking at a guy who's sort of like a Pierre Engvall, nothing third liner who sort of falls off a little bit. But I think you're looking at a guy who has all the attributes to be a real good middle six passion, energy, grit, glue guy.
Chip in with 20. That'd be a nice
sure.
thing to do. Yeah. There it is. We're coming up on an hour. Thank you to all our sponsors. Appreciate it. Platinum Mitsubishi, welcome on board. Bet365. Yeti Booster Juice. We'll see you guys up in Jasper. Looking forward to that. Richmond's Pub. And of course, everyone else we love here on Afterburner. We will see you later, Jacko, to the Wolverine. Keep doing your thing. Mike, thanks for being in here. Appreciate it. Sell some more BMWs and Mitsubishis and all that good stuff. See you later. Thanks for being with us.